letting us be a part of this today. We're just filming for a video that we're doing on Briso, you'll see in a moment. So you may see cameras come in out of frame a little bit. We won't be that intrusive, but just a heads up. That's it. So we're really glad to be here, and thank you very much.
Okay. And tell how many people are filming.
We got about 5 people here. Okay. Including myself.
You'll see 5 people, and thank you. Then Mary, just a moment. We'll let Dr. Fetzer introduce himself. He's appearing to us from Wisconsin. Dr. Fetzer.
Thank you, Mike. As a former Marine Corps officer, I resigned my commission to enter graduate school and earn a PhD in the history and the philosophy of science, beginning a 35-year career in the academy, where I offered principally courses in logic, critical thinking, and scientific reasoning. I have, as of now, published 24 academic books and a dozen more in the area might broadly be described as conspiracy research on the assassination of JFK, the events of 9/11, the death of Senator Paul Wellstone, and a series of what turned out to be staged shooting events here in the United States, where you can find access to the books I have edited by bringing together the best experts on different aspects of each of these cases at moonrockbooks.com. I'm very proud to be associated with the world-class schools projects, of which this mock trial is an example. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you very much. Mary, could you introduce your school, please?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Mei Mary from Taiwan, and we're very glad to be connecting with Michael's class again in Texas. And we have had a lot of opportunities to connect with different countries around the world over the past decade. And because of Mike, we have had more opportunities involving international mock trials and many other debates as well. And so today, we would like to introduce not only the participating students who will be the attorneys and witnesses, as you can see in the front. We also have other observing participants, including students from our school, and also we have parents and also teachers from other schools at the back. Would you like to wave? Okay. And thank you, Michael, and thank you, Dr. Fetzer and the JC company and the filming crew. Thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Risa? No, you introduce the school.
Yeah.
I'll tilt the computer if that's the easier. Okay. Okay. Are you guys okay? Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, Taiwan. Good morning, Your Honor. We are very happy to be here today. We are the Valle debate team, and today we will be representing the Crown as the prosecution.
Thank you very much. Dr. Fetzer, if you'd like to take over now and call for opening statements, we appreciate it.
The court hereby convenes the mock trial for world-class students of the Crown versus Peter Peddler. Is the Crown prepared to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Is the defense prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
The Crown may provide its opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, good morning, and may it please the court. My name is Brisa Rodriguez-Muro, and today I will be prosecuting the defendant, Peter Peddler, and representing the Crown. In my time before the court, I will show that the defendant, Peter Peddler, is guilty. The facts of the case are simple. On August 13, 2017, Mr. Peddler smuggled into the country the prohibited substance heroin, a clear violation of the Importation of Narcotics Act of 1992 under Section 39, Paragraph 1, which clearly states that a person commits an offense who without reasonable excuse has in their possession or attempted to obtain possession of any prohibitive drug to which this section applies to. Mr. Peddler knew from the moment the plane landed that he had a task. The first thing Mr. Peddler did after the plane landed was to pick up his 2 bags, and Mr. Peddler walked past Agent Probe and Fang to pick up his bags, and when Fang identified him as the owner of the bag in question, Mr. Peddler knew he had all intention to smuggle the drugs into the country. And we know this to be a fact because of the fake baggage claim ticket under the name of Desiree Duplessis, who did not exist at any point in the manifest, that he used to obtain the bags. To further prove this, you will hear important testimony from 2 key experts, Agent Probe, a customs officer, and Detective Leary, who will testify that Mr. Peddler had possession of the heroin when caught at the airport. Now, Your Honor, under the Summary Offenses Act of 1953, possession means having control over the disposition of the drug. The possessor must know that it's in their custody and control that it's an illegal drug, although it isn't necessary to know precisely what drug it is, Your Honor. And we ask this court to also note that in the precedent of Curl versus R in 1987, it was upheld that the importer did not have to have knowledge of the drug, just the likelihood or belief of that knowledge. The fact that Fang picked up on the scent, Your Honor, represents that likelihood. The bar has been set. The bar is that a reasonable person should have known that you cannot transport drugs into Australia and that the fake baggage claim ticket with a different name should have raised the rate at red flag. Then in picking up the right luggage without hesitation nor question, and in addition used the matching baggage claim ticket, Mr. Peddler completely throws out his story of naiveness and ignorance. Do bad things happen to good people? Of course. But this is not a coincidence. It is the product of good police work and a criminal caught red-handed. Therefore, Your Honor, we will show that he did violate all 4 aspects of this law, and that these are the facts of the case, and that they are irrefutable. The defense will try to pull a little magic act. They will create a little misdirection and attempt to sway you with tall tales of a mysterious woman named Allison and her suitcase. Yet, they will absolutely have no evidence, none. And at the end of this trial, you will realize that even with all the magic in the world, the fact still remains that Mr. Peddler smuggled the drugs with knowledge and intention, and that the defense cannot hide the fact that Mr. Peddler is a criminal. Therefore, Your Honor, we ask you to find the defendant, Peter Peddler, guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. The defense may present its opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor. We are Irene Zhang and Stephen Ye, and we appear for the defendant, Peter Peddler. We are here to prove that this innocent, truthful man has been wrongfully prosecuted. In fact, Mr. Peddler himself became the victim of drug transportation because he was too naive, trusting, and willing to help. Mr. Peddler is a full-time student at University of Adelaide. He went to San Francisco for the purpose of doing a research in anthropology. On his flight back to Adelaide, he met a girl called Allison, who asked him for help picking up her baggage. Mr. Peddler helped the girl, Allison, out of his kindness and sympathy, which unfortunately caused him to become the victim of drug transportation.
We will prove to you that Mr. Peddler was wrongfully accused of being in possession of drugs. The fact is that the drugs found were actually belonged to that girl, Allison, not the defendant, Mr. Peddler. In the preceding case, Proudman versus Dayman, 1941, it has been established that if one has an honest and reasonable belief in the state of bad luck exists, this would make a defendant's act innocent and afford an excuse for doing what would otherwise constitute an offense. We will show you that the defendant, Mr. Peddler, has an honest and reasonable belief that he was helping a lady carry a luggage. Mr. Peddler, the defendant, should not be prosecuted and punished for his belief in helping people. At the conclusion of this trial, you will find that the defendant not guilty. Thank you. That concludes our opening address.
Thank you very much. The Crown may present its case by calling it first witness.
We will call to the stand Agent Pro.
For the record, please state your name.
My name is Tama Pro.
Please state your address.
I live at 1/3 Rummage Road in North Adelaide.
Ms. Pro, what is your occupation?
I'm a customs officer in the International Airport in Adelaide.
Ms. Pro, do you have a partner?
Yes, I have a certified narcotic dog sniffer named Fang, and he's been my partner for 3 years.
As a part of your daily routine, what, if anything, do you check when international luggage comes in?
When international luggage comes in, it is my job to take my partner around to smell each individual bag of luggage in order to determine if there may be prohibited substances such as narcotics within the baggage.
Please describe what happened on August 13, 2017, when you were checking Flight 13's luggage.
On August 13, 2017, whenever I was checking Flight 13's luggage from San Francisco to North Adelaide, Fang stopped at one baggage in particular and gave an identifying signal that he believed that there may be a narcotic substance within that baggage.
What, if anything, did you find inside the luggage?
Nothing at that time.
What did you do to make sure, what, if anything, did you do to identify the bag?
Well, since my partner Fang did pick up on the luggage, claiming that there may be something within the luggage, I have to look at the baggage claim tag. On the tag, there was no name or address. There was just a code on it, so I had to run that code, and I determined that the bag belonged to Desiree Delicious.
What, if anything, did you do after? What, if anything, did you do after that with Fang?
I took Fang around to the arrival lounge, and I told him to identify who he believed to be the owner of the bag whenever they got off the plane.
Did Fang identify anyone at that time?
He did not identify anybody off of the plane until a man who was later identified to be Peter Peddler came off of the plane. Whenever the man walked off of the plane, he shuffled forward and did his identifying action that that person he believed to be the owner of that bag.
What did Mr. Peddler do next?
Mr. Peddler went and he picked up 2 bags, one of the bags being the bag that my partner had detected may have narcotics within it.
What is your procedure to do next?
At this point in time, I do have probable cause due to the fact that my partner identified that there may be drugs within a bag, and he identified the person who picked up the bag to possibly own the bag whenever he came out of the plane. So my procedure is then to find a way. My procedure then is to search the bags due to the fact that I have probable cause.
What, if anything, did you find inside either of the bags?
Whenever I took Mr. Peddler around to the search area, I found in one of the bags I found nothing in particular, just a few pairs of clothes and a hairbrush. And whenever I opened the bag that Fang had detected on earlier, there was several pairs of lingerie and a small cosmetic case.
What was inside the cosmetic case?
At the bottom of the cosmetic case, there were 5 small foil envelopes that contain a white powdery substance.
And how did you conclude that it was a prohibited substance?
I tasted the substance and concluded that it was a prohibited substance.
What, if anything, did you do after you concluded that Peter Peddler had a prohibited substance in his possession?
I asked him where he got the substance, and he said that he got it from Allison.
What is the standard operating procedure to do next?
It's to call the police, and that's exactly what I did. Within 3 minutes, Detective Leary came to the scene, and I handed the case over to him.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The defense is welcome to cross-examine the witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Are you absolutely sure that the baggage with drugs belongs to Peter?
My job is not to determine who the bag belongs to. My job is to stop narcotics. Now, due to the fact that my partner detected that there may be narcotics. That gave me reasonable suspicion. However, whenever he detected that Peter Peddler may be the owner of the bag, that's whenever I had probable cause. So I could check the bag either way, whether it actually belonged to him or not. Not only that, but he also had a baggage claim ticket for that bag. So I have to assume that it is his bag either way.
So are you able to tell us that the narcotic sniffer dog has a 30% of error level in identifying the objects with their owners?
However, in this case, he identified the correct person and a bag with narcotics in it. The person who picked up the bag with narcotics was the person who identified to be the owner of the bag of the narcotics is the one who picked up on. So therefore, at this point in time, that's a 100% accuracy of determining the person.
Can you tell us in what situation the error percentage of sniffer dogs would increase?
Can you please repeat your question?
Can you tell us in what situation the error percentage of the sniffer dog will increase?
Really make a difference whether or not it would increase. In this case here today, it was 100% accurate. There were drugs within the bag, and the person who he identified to be the owner of the bag took possession of the bag.
For example, when the two people sat too close to each other for a long while, it would maybe increase the error rate of the sniffer dog. Is that correct?
It is correct. However, in this case today, Feng did not identify any other person coming off of the plane. He identified one man, and that was later, who was later identified to be Peter Peddler.
How can you be sure that the results falls in the accuracy level of 70%?
Due to the fact that in this case, my partner only detected one person, and that one person picked up the bag that contained narcotics in it.
After a narcotic sniffer dog found the suspect bag, did you run a computer search to find out who the bag belonged to?
Can you please repeat your question? I'm sorry.
After the narcotic sniffer dog found the suspect bag, did you run a computer search to find out who the bag belonged to?
It was his bag.
After you ran a computer search, what did the result indicate?
It indicated that there were drugs within the bag that Peter Peddler had picked up.
No. In your statement, after you run a computer search, the baggage was registered by Desiree Duplicitus. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So after you ran a computer search, what did the record indicate?
Indicated that it was a fake bag. A fake baggage ticket.
What was the result indicate after you ran a computer search?
It's that there may be a fake baggage claim ticket, especially since the person picked up the bag had the baggage claim ticket to pick up said bag.
In your statement, after you ran a computer search, the stop indicate Mrs. Desiree Duplicitus. Is that correct?
It did run that it was Desiree Duplicitus. However, Detective Leary determined later on that there was no Desiree Duplicitus on the plane. Not only that, but Peter Peddler did hold the baggage claim ticket. So that indicates in Australian law that that bag is in Peter Peddler's possession. So although the bag may not be owned by Mr. Peddler, it is in his possession, so therefore he is accountable for whatever is in that bag.
No, but there must be a stop registered by that Mr. Desiree Duplicitus. Is that correct in your statement?
Could you repeat the question for the benefit of the court? Please repeat the question.
After you ran a computer search, What did the result indicate?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answer. I think the witness has very clearly answered that yes, the computer search has.
I'm going to sustain that objection. I do believe the questions have become repetitive. Does the defense have any further questions for this witness?
I just only want her to tell that there is stuff which was registered by Mrs. Desiree Duplicitus.
The sound is off. I cannot hear the witness respond.
The baggage claim ticket, whenever I ran it did say that it belonged to Desiree Duplicitus. However, due to the fact that Mr. Peddler had a baggage claim ticket.
Thank you. Is it standard for you? Is it standard procedure for you to test the drug, the substance?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then after that, it was sent to a lab to again determine whether or not it was 100% narcotic substance. However, it is my job to put a little bit on my finger and taste it in order to conclude whether or not it may or may not be a narcotic substance. And that's whenever I get the police involved, whenever there is a high likelihood that it may be.
So are you sure that is your job to test the substance?
Yes, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. The court has a question for the witness. Point of clarification. You stated that the drug-sniffing dog Fang identified Peter Peddler when he exited the plane prior to obtaining the luggage?
No, after.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The prosecution may call its next witness.
We will call.
The Crown.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will call to the stand Detective Leary.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is McKean Leary.
And what is your occupation?
I've been an active member of the Australian Federal Police Force for 20 years. I am currently the drug squad. I am currently a detective with the drug squad. I have held this position for 13 years.
What, if anything, happened on August 13, 2017, after you received a phone call from the customs official?
On the 13th of August 2017, I received a phone call from a customs official at approximately 3:13 p.m. requesting my presence at Adelaide International Airport. Upon my arrival there, I saw defendant and Mrs. Probe, a customs officer, a customs official. She showed me five small foil packages she had found concealed in a cosmetic bag inside the defendant's luggage. I introduced myself as defendant as detective. I introduced myself to the defendant as Detective Leary from the Federal Police Drug Squad. I said, "Is what Mrs. Probe told me true?"
What was the defendant's reaction?
The defendant did not give a direct answer. He said, "It's not my bag. I don't know anything about drugs. I was doing Allison a favor."
What, if anything, did you do next?
I asked Mrs. Probe to tell me how she found this. She explained everything from Fanny identifying Mr. Peddler to concluding finding the heroin in the cosmetic case inside Peddler's bag. After Mrs. Probe asked, "Where did you get this?" Peddler said, "It's Allison's bag. She sat next to me on the plane." And then I called you, detective.
What, if anything, did the defendant say to that?
I asked the defendant, "Is what Mrs. Probe told me true?" The defendant said, "I didn't know anything about the bag. I don't know anything about any drugs. I've never seen drugs before. I was just doing Allison a favor."
I'm confused here. Who is Allison?
Well, when I asked Mrs. Peddler the exact same question, she sat next to me on the plane. He gave the answer. She sat next to me on the plane. He gave a garbled account of an argument. He said she will come to my house in a few days to collect her bag. Her mother is dying in Adelaide Retirement Village. Mrs. Probe handed me a bag stub. She said this is attached to the containing the suspect substance, and the defendant said the bag belongs to Allison.
And what was the name on the baggage claim?
Desiree Duplicitus was the name of the baggage claim.
Officer, was Peter Peddler ever able to identify for you this Allison?
No, I asked him, "Does this Allison have a surname and address?" The defendant said, "I don't know."
What, if any, investigation did you make into the presence of Allison on the plane?
I made inquiries at AA Airlines as the baggage stub that Mrs. Probe had given me during the interview of the defendant at the airport. I ran a passenger check. There was no one by the name of Allison or Desiree Duplessis on AA Flight 13 from San Francisco to Adeline on the 13th of August, 2017.
Officer, what if anything happened after that?
I escorted the defendant down to the Adeline police station where he was formally charged.
Was a substance found in the bag taken for identification?
Yes, indeed. I took it down to the police laboratory for analysis. The analysis found that it was heroin.
Did you ascertain that Peter Peddler indeed been in possession of it in Australia?
Yes, he was in possession. He took said possession from an airport that came to the United States, and he was the only one in possession of the luggage.
What, if anything, does the baggage claim ticket establish?
It establishes that there was no Allison or Desiree Duplessis on the plane, and Mr. Peddler picked up a fake baggage ticket.
Officer, just one more question. What, if anything, did you do to check out the rest of Peddler's story?
I had the defendant's house under surveillance for roughly a week, and no one came to pick up the bag, proving that his statement is false, that Allison was going to pick up the bag in a week.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. The defense may cross.
Yes, Your Honor. In your investigation regarding who registered the bag, did you also find that several months ago, another suitcase containing drugs was found on a AA flight from San Francisco to Australia, and the bag indicates that it belongs to a court judge?
Yes.
Do you think that the bag Mr. Peddler take might possibly be a misidentified bag?
No.
Can you give us some evidence that the bag Mr. Peddler take is not a misidentified bag?
He had the baggage claim ticket showing that he was going to pick up the bag.
Can you repeat it again? I cannot clearly hear you.
He had the baggage ticket, and that claimed that he had to have that in San Francisco to check the bag on the plane.
No. Pardon? Can you just
he had the baggage claim ticket in Australia, claiming that he had to pick it up in San Francisco.
I don't think this clearly answered to my questions. I'm asking you if the bag that Mr. Peddler take is a misidentified bag.
No.
Do you think that it's your responsibility to check that if Mr. Peddler's bag is a misidentified bag? You just say no. Are there any evidence?
Objection, Your Honor. Ask and answer. This question has been restated multiple times.
Sustained. Does the defense have any further questions for this witness?
Did the custom officer give you the stub of the baggage?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Did the customs officer give you the stub of the baggage?
Agent Probe, yeah, she had the baggage ticket of.
Thank you. After the custom officer gave you the stub, did you check to see who is the owner of the suspect bag?
Yes, we ran passengers checks on both Allison and Desiree Duplessis and found nobody of those names on the flight.
Who was the owner of the suspect bag?
Well, since Allison and Desiree, which was on the baggage claim ticket, were not on the flight, it had to be Mr. Peddler because he's the one that picked up the bag.
In your statement, you have to a check to see who's the owner of the bag, and you take the stub to check. What's the answer indicate?
There is no Desiree or Allison Duplessis on the flight. That's what the check.
So the bag was not checked under Mr. Peddler. right?
No, the bag was not checked under Mr. Peddler. It was checked under Allison or Desiree Duplessis.
Let me remind you, you just say that you get the answer of Desiree Duplessis after you check the stuff. Is that correct?
After running the checks once more, I again found that there was no Desiree or Allison Duplessis on flight 13.
I'm asking you, after you check the stuff, is the answer indicates under Desiree Duplessis?
The court requests clarification. You're asking whether after verifying the baggage tab what name was the baggage checked under? That is the question?
Yes.
The bag was checked under that of Desiree Duplessis, but after running flight checks, there was no Desiree Duplessis on the flight.
So that means that the bag wasn't checked under Mr. Peddler, right?
We're claiming that he had a fake baggage ticket, and that's how he got the bag on the plane.
How can you prove that the ticket is fake?
Because after running checks, we found no Allison or Desiree Duplessis, which Mr. Peddler was claiming he picked up the bag for.
But there might be possible that the baggage belongs to another one and another people go to board the flight.
No, because after running the flight checks, once again, I found no Allison or Desiree Duplessis, which checked in the bag, meaning that Mr. Peddler had a fake baggage ticket because none of those people got off of the plane in Adelaide.
Do you know that it might be possible that Mrs. Desiree Duplessis did not board?
Can you restate the question?
Did you know that there is a percentage that Mrs. Desiree Duplessis checked in the bag, but she did not board the flight?
If the court might intervene, the question seems to be, could Desiree Duplessis have checked the bag and nevertheless not taken the flight?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, the only reason she would need to do that was because of the transportation of drugs that she didn't want to get caught in, and that is what we're arguing here today.
Can you just answer it again? I can't clearly hear you.
The only reason that she would check in a bag and not get on the plane was the transportation of drugs, which is proving our point here today.
I don't think that clearly answered my questions.
I believe the answer is affirmative, that yes, it could have been the case that Desiree Duplessis checked the bag and then did not take the flight for the reason that she did not want to be caught in relation to the contents of the bag.
Yes, thank you.
As a defense, any further questions? Yes.
But the bag is not indicated under Mr. Peddler's name. Is that correct?
Objection, ask and answer this question.
Yes, sustained. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Can you tell me who was sitting next to Peter during the flight?
It's unclear because I was only informed of Allison or Desiree, which both of them were not sitting on the plane next to Mr. Peddler.
So you cannot tell us who was sitting right next to Peter during the flight, right?
That would be a question for your client who was sitting on next to the plane.
You deny that the existence of Allison just because she didn't appear to get back her baggage, right?
No, because after running a passenger check on the flight, there was no Allison on the plane. That's why I'm denying that there is no Allison.
Do you know that there is something different between a passenger's check and a seat configuration?
Yes.
So there is a percentage that Allison is on a flight, but is not on a passenger's check. If Allison was conscious of the arrest of the defendant while she was leaving the defendant's house, or leaving the airport, or if she saw the police at Mr. Peddler's house. Do you think that she will still keep her appointment with Mr. Peddler?
Objection, Your Honor. That's not in evidence. The defense has stepped away a little bit out of line by asking those details.
Sustained. I believe the defense has already made the point. Do you have any further questions? Does the defense have any further questions?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. The court has a question for the witness. Was any effort made to subject the baggage claim to fingerprint analysis that might have revealed fingerprints other than Peter Peddler and the law enforcement agencies who handled it?
No.
Thank you very much.
May I redirect, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right. Detective Leary, you said that upon arrival, when asked about the bags, Mr. Peddler said he didn't know anything about drugs before they even established the fact that it was a drug, correct?
Yes.
So Mr. Peddler's first reaction upon seeing the package was, I don't know anything about drugs, correct?
Yes.
Without any knowledge of what was actually inside those
No, the
packets.
only question I asked him was what Mrs. Prep told me true.
All right. Thank you.
Does the defense wish to recross? Does the defense have any further questions for this witness?
No.
No, Your Honor.
Does the Crown have any further witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor. We passed the witness.
No.
So does the Crown rest its case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. The defense may call its first witness.
I call Mr. Peddler. Please state your name and occupation.
My name is Peter Peddler. I'm now undertaking an honor degree in anthropology, and I'm now a full-time college student studying arts.
What happened when you arrived at the Valle International Airport on 13 August 2008?
When I arrived at the airport, I went to pick up my baggage and the other baggage which Allison asked me to take for her. Then I joined the line to pass through the customs. A custom officer went to me and asked to search the bag.
What did the custom officer find in your baggage?
She found nothing in my bag, but to my surprise, she found some substance drugs in Allison's bag. I don't know why there were drugs in it.
Why were there narcotic drugs in Allison's baggage?
I don't know. I have no idea. I was shocked then.
How did you feel when the custom officer found drugs inside Allison's baggage?
I feel so shocked, and I'm
Objection. That's not evidence. The defense hasn't even stated that it was Allison's bag.
Your Honor, we'd like to make the point that because the defense has not yet established that there is an Allison or that there is any link between the bag in question and Allison, that the court and you, Your Honor, not consider it a fact yet.
Yes, but the defense is entitled to his first-hand personal experience testimony that he had a conversation with a woman who identified herself as Allison. So I accept the testimony as it's being presented. Your objection is noted. The defense may continue questioning the witness.
Who is Allison?
Allison is a girl sat next to me on the plane.
Why were you carrying Allison's baggage?
Her mother is dying and she's in hurry. She must go back to her mother's side in hurry. But she brought too much luggage and couldn't pass through the custom. So I helped her.
How was she getting her luggage from you?
She asked for my address and she promised me that she would come to my place and pick up her baggage in a few days.
Can you register a baggage by using somebody else's name?
No, I cannot.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The Crown has the opportunity to cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Peddler, did you fly back from San Francisco aboard flight American Airlines 13 on August 13 of 2017?
Yes.
And you said something very interesting. You said that you were carrying Allison's baggage, correct?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Peddler, according to your statement, the statement that you gave to the police, you said that you were going to pick up Allison's baggage, correct?
Allison asked me to take it for her.
So you do admit that you were carrying it all the way from San Francisco then, correct?
No.
That's what you said. I asked you if you were picking up the luggage for Allison, and you said no, you were carrying it for her.
No.
So you admit that you were carrying the bag with drugs, correct?
When I arrived at the outlet, Allison asked me to take a bag for her.
So she asked you to take the bags at the airport? That's not what's in the statement, is it correct?
Excuse me, may I request the translation?
Could you ask the question again?
Of course. Allow me to rephrase then. Mr. Peddler, I asked you if you were carrying the bags for Allison, and you said yes. I then asked you if you were to pick up the bags, and you said no, you were carrying them. So now you're saying that Allison asked you to pick up the bags at the airport, which makes it a bit confusing for us today. If you were really going to pick up the bags at the airport, then why would you be carrying the bags from San Francisco? That would explain the baggage claim ticket, wouldn't it, Mr. Peddler?
他在问你那个 carry 到底是从头到尾系带，还是那个只是后来，所以你要讲清楚。
She asked me to take the bag for her while the plane was landed at the outlet.
The court asks a question of clarification. At what point did Allison ask you to take her bag check and pick up her bag on her behalf? Was it on the plane before it landed or after the plane had landed in the airport?
After the plane landed at the airport.
To your statement, the one that you gave to the police, in the facts of the case, it said that she asked you after a few drinks on the plane. Were you under the influence, Mr. Peddler? Is that why you can't remember?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't hear it clearly.
You, according to the statement that you gave to the police, that you gave to Detective Leary at the holding room, you stated from the facts of the case that Allison asked you to pick up the bags for her in the airplane after a few drinks. Were you under the influence? Is that why you can't remember?
Excuse me. I can't really hear about it.
All right. I'll try one more time. Sorry. Mr. Peddler, according to the statement that you gave to the police, you stated that in that statement, Allison asked you to pick up the bags after a couple of drinks. Were you under the influence? Is that why you can't remember? Is that why you can't give the court a full answer today?
Could I ask for a translation?
The court will seek to clarify the question. It has been previously understood that you had the conversation with Allison about the ticket and taking her luggage aboard the plane during a time when you were having drinks together. Is that a false account?
Do you not understand the question?
Yeah, I'm not really understand about the question.
Okay, Mr. Peddler. Well, to simplify this, then I'd like to ask you just a few more questions. If you can't remember the drinks, and when asked about Allison, you couldn't remember a single detail, then that proves that Allison wasn't really a person, correct? And if you were really carrying the bags, then that proves that you smuggled the drugs in from San Francisco into Australia, correct?
She asked me to take a bag for her when the plane is circling at that airport.
Forget the statement for a second then. May I ask you what she looked like then?
Excuse me?
Could you describe maybe her hair color, her appearance, what she was wearing that day?
She just told me her name was Allison.
And you can't give a single detail as to what she looked like on that day.
Oh, and then it seems like she's about 20 years old.
And is that all? May I remind you, Mr. Peddler, that your life in jail is on the line here. So if you'd like to give any detail, we would more than likely appreciate it. Again, we're representing the Crown and the security of the people out in Australia. Do you know her last name?
Mr. Peddler, on behalf of the court, could you describe the height, the weight, the build, the color of hair, the color of eyes, the complexion, any other features that would identify Allison with whom you sat on the plane during the flight?
This is not in the statement.
Yes, but there's an answer to the question. Do you have an answer to the question?
She told me her name was Allison, and it seems that she is about 20 years old.
So, Mr. Peddler, you said something very interesting. You said that it wasn't in the statement. So you've read the statement, correct? If you read the statement, how come you can't answer my previous question in regards to why you were carrying the drugs from San Francisco if Miss Allison was the one that asked you on the plane to carry them for her?
Could you repeat the question again?
Well, if you read the statement...
Can I interrupt? Because they're using a lot of words that the witness cannot understand. For example, like the students here don't understand what it means to be under the influence. They do not understand that term, and they're using a lot of vocabulary. So perhaps we can translation.
Objection sustained. The Crown will rephrase the question in simpler language.
Thank you, Your Honor. Allow me to rephrase.
Yep.
Correct?
You are muted.
Oh, you were thank you, Your Honor. Sorry, allow me to rephrase. Mr. Peddler, you were drinking alcohol on the plane, correct?
Allison ordered me a Kaluha on the plane.
Okay, so you read your statement then, correct?
Yes.
In your statement, did you not say that Allison asked you to pick up the bags for her after the drinks?
Allison asked me to take a bag for her during while the plane was circling at that airport.
Okay, so if you were still on the plane when she asked you to pick up the bags, then why did you lie a moment ago and say that it was once you landed at the airport?
She pointed the baggage for me during after the plane was landed.
Mr. Peddler, that's not what I asked. I asked you, why was it that you lied when you said that Allison asked you to pick up the bags when landing at the airport and not necessarily while they were still on the plane?
The court observes that the inference that this was a lie implies that it was deliberate and intentional when it may not be the case. You're entitled to observe that he made what appears to be a false or inconsistent statement without thereby assuming that it was intentional or a lie.
I did not lie.
In that case, Mr. Peddler, would it be fair to say that you misrepresented your statement?
Yes.
So if that's wrong, would it be fair to say that whatever testimony that you come before the court to say is also unreliable?
Could you repeat that question?
So if you were mistaken in your statement, which was at that moment, would it not be fair to say that as of now, when a couple of weeks have passed, that there could be a lot more inconsistencies in your testimony today as well?
Could I ask for a repeat? Do I ask for the translation?
What exactly do you need to be translated or simplified, Mr. Peddler?
I did not understand your question.
What part of the question?
All of them.
Mr. Peddler, if I might, on behalf of the Crown, the question is, if you were mistaken about one aspect of your testimony, might you not also be mistaken about other aspects of your testimony?
The question is too confusing.
Does the Crown have any further questions for the witness?
So, Mr. Peddler, just one final question. You didn't seem to be confused when Agent Probe found the packets inside the suitcase, did you? Your first reaction was, I don't know anything about drugs, correct?
I don't know anything about the drugs.
Right.
But
thank you.
And I was shocked then.
Admit that you knew that they were drugs before they even established that fact by sending those packets into the laboratory to be examined. Correct?
No, I don't know the drugs in it.
Right, you
It's
didn't know,
Alice-
you didn't know about the drugs. That's all we needed. Thank you, Mr. Peddler. No further questions, Your Honor.
You may call your next witness.
I call Desmond Ratchet. Please state your name and occupation.
My name is Desmond Ratchet. I'm a matron at the Wither Oak Nursing Home for the Old and Weary, North Adelaide.
What is your relationship with Mr. Peddler?
I was present at Peter's birth and have watched him grow into a fine, strapping young man he is today. He came to live with me for several years. I came to love and trust him as though he were my own child.
How close are you with Mr. Peddler?
7 years ago, when his mother went to pursue her dream, Peter needed a more stable home environment and came to live with me. In that year, we became very close. He trusted me completely. He always comes to me when he faces difficulties.
According to your relationship with you and Mr. Peddler, can you tell us something about Mr. Peddler's personality?
Peter is a kind and truthful person. I have always tried to shield him from cold and cruel elements of life. For instance, I will never let him associate with ungodly sinners.
Did Mr. Peddler take any narcotic drugs before?
To the best of my knowledge and belief, Peter has never taken any narcotic drugs before.
Then why was he in possession of drugs?
Peter did not intentionally bring drugs into Australia. The bag was not Peter's, it belongs to some hussy who called herself Alison.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The Crown may cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Ratchet, in your latest answer, you just said and admitted that you didn't know why he was in possession of drugs, correct?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Mr. Ratchet, you just answered that you didn't know why Peter Peddler had drugs in his possession on that day, correct?
I can't clearly hear you.
Mr. Peddler, you just stated right now...
I'm not Mr. Peddler.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Ratchet, you just said in the defense's question that you did not know why Peter Peddler had drugs in his possession on that day, correct?
He was just helping someone who called herself Alison.
But you do admit that he had the drugs in his possession, correct?
He didn't know what's in it, and he just helped somebody.
Could you please answer the question, Mr. Ratchet? It's a simple yes or no. Did you not just admit that Mr. Peddler had drugs in his possession?
He was just helping someone carrying a baggage. What belonged?
Mr. Peddler, you said that drugs were in Mr. Peddler's possession, correct?
Could you repeat the question?
Mr. Ratchet, you said that Mr. Peddler had drugs in his possession on the day that he was arrested, correct?
No. No.
So are you saying that you lied before when answering the defense's question?
He was just helping someone carrying
It's a simple
baggage.
yes or no, Mr. Ratchet. Simple yes or no. Did you not state that previously?
Sorry, I can't hear you clearly.
Objections. It is a leading question.
This is a cross-examination. I believe that I am allowed to ask leading questions during this period of questioning.
The objection is overruled. Believes the witness should answer the question.
Thank you.
He was just helping someone carry the bag.
So,
I believe in Peter.
Mr. Peddler, you agree, Mr. Ratchet, you agree that Mr. Peddler had drugs in his possession on the day he was arrested, correct? Simple
Could
yes.
you speak slowly? I couldn't hear you clearly.
Objection, compound questions.
I asked the
The
simple
Crown will rephrase the question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ratchet, do you, based on your knowledge, you do not know why Mr. Peddler had drugs in his possession on that day, correct?
I have taken care of Peter for many years, and
I understand that, Mr. Peddler. That's not the Mr. Ratchet. That's not the question. However, I'm asking that you don't really know because you weren't there. You don't know why Mr. Peddler had drugs in his possession, correct?
I wasn't on the flight. I wasn't on that flight, and
I understand.
I believe you will not. I believe you will not lie to me.
So, is this court supposed to base their legal reasoning based on your beliefs? Is that what you're trying to tell the court today?
Opinion and the judgment developed through our close relationship.
On behalf of the court, understand that the defense has contended that Peter Peddler was unaware of the presence of drugs in the baggage, and therefore there would have been no reason for he to have had knowledge or for this witness to know how that had come about other than through inadvertence, according to the testimony of the witnesses here.
We understand that, Your Honor, but given the fact that Mr. Ratchet was not present during the whole trajectory of the investigation, nor throughout much of the outside activity of Peter because of their line of work, that it is necessary that this court understand that Mr. Ratchet has done nothing but establish that Mr. Peddler had the drugs in his possession on that day.
Mr. Ratchet has no direct personal knowledge of the truth or falsity of those statements other than what he has heard from the defendant. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Does the defense have any further witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor.
That concludes the presentation of the trial in chief then. Each party is now entitled to make a closing statement. The Crown will go first.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, you've heard both sides of the story, and you must now make a decision. The Crown has demonstrated without a doubt that the possession of the drugs was under Mr. Peter Peddler himself. You've heard testimony from two very questionable witnesses whose whole testimony relied on nothing but beliefs and misunderstandings. During cross-examination, we were able to prove that there was intention. Mr. Peddler's first reaction upon the opening of the baggage in question, and when Agent Probe took out the packets, was, "I know nothing about the drugs," just like a kid would do when asking for forgiveness before they even established that he was the one guilty of it. Mr. Peddler knew the kind of mess that he was in, so he constructed this whole story in order to not go to jail, Your Honor. We have proven that his story, as well as his statement, do not add up. And the reason why they don't add up is because Allison or Desiree Duplessis, both of them, do not exist. I asked Mr. Peddler a very simple question at the beginning of this trial. I asked him, why was it that he was carrying the bags for Allison if in his statement he was simply asked to pick them up? He admitted that he was carrying the drugs traveling from San Francisco into Australia, therefore establishing the fact that he had full intention and knowledge of bringing the drugs into Australia. Your Honor, in order for the Crown to win, we had a duty to prove that the possession was under Mr. Peddler and that there was full intention. We have done so. The facts of the case are simple. The drug, heroin, was found in the bags that Peter Peddler was carrying. The drugs came from another country other than Australia. And Peter used the claim check that was necessary in order to obtain the bags. Our story adds up. There are no holes, and there is nothing but clear intention. So the precedent of Proudman v. Damon, introduced by the defense, cannot stand before the court today. Mr. Peddler knew exactly what he was doing. So again, Your Honor, according to the previously cited case law by the Crown in Curl v. R in 1987, where it was upheld that the importer did not have to have knowledge of the drug, just the likelihood, we have beyond established that fact and shown that there was knowledge and that there was intention. In cross-examination, the defendant admitted that a claim ticket that was used was the one that he was able to obtain the bag with. He couldn't identify the person, and no record of this person was anywhere to be found. When asked to simply describe the person that sat next to the plane, the person whose life may be threatening his liberty, he was not able to come up with a single fact nor detail to describe that woman, which shows, Your Honor, that Allison was not a woman he met on a plane, but someone that simply did not exist. Therefore, Your Honor, we, the Crown, implore you to come to the same conclusion as we did. Peter Peddler broke the law. He cannot claim to obtain something from a person who did not exist, never showed up, and was not the person with the claim ticket. What makes sense here is the Crown's story. Your Honor, these are the facts of the case, and they are irrefutable. Mr. Peddler is a criminal. He must be found guilty. Thank you. The Crown rests.
The defense may make its closing statement.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, based on the evidence from witnesses on both sides, it is quite clear that the defendant, Mr. Peddler, did not intend to be in possession of drugs. The customs officer and the police detective did not claim that what they did in their statement. There must be so many loopholes. The substance that was found never belonged to Mr. Peddler. The prosecution insisted that the narcotic sniffer dog's ability of identification is sufficient to show that the drugs belong to Mr. Peddler. However, 70% is not enough for conviction. The accuracy of the sniffer dog in identifying the owner of the baggage is only 70%. This means that 30% is in fallacious level. And there are situations where the average would increase. For example, when the narcotic dogs were tired or when two people sat too closely on a plane for a long while, it would increase the average. Furthermore, according to the results the customs officer got from the search on the computer, the bag was checked in by a woman named Desiree Duplessis, and the police detective also acknowledged that the owner of the baggage to be Desiree Duplessis. Clearly, it cannot be shown that the bag belonged to the defendant, even if there was no one by the name of Desiree Duplessis on the passenger list. This itself does not disprove such a person's existence. There has been incidents of mix-up at AA Airlines in the past. The defendant, Mr. Peddler, helped Allison, the woman who sat beside him on a plane, out of his kindness and sympathy. The defendant did not know the cruel and cold elements of life. It never occurred to him that helping Miss Allison would lead to legal charges. In reference to the case law, Proudman versus Damon, it has been established that if one has an honest and reasonable belief in a state of fact that exists, this would make a defendant's act innocent and afford an excuse for doing what would otherwise constitute an offense. Mr. Peddler's honest and reasonable belief is that he was helping Allison carry luggage out of his kindness and sympathy, which would make Mr. Peddler's act innocent. As you have heard from Desmond Ratchet, my client is a very trusting, kind creature. His act to help Allison carry her baggage is an honest and reasonable deed, at least afford an excuse for doing what would otherwise constitute criminal possession of drugs. Also, we believe that the information indicated that the customs officer cannot test the substance poisonally. It is not a standard procedure to test the substance by customs officer himself, but the prosecutor insists that it is her duty to test, which is wrong.
The prosecution refused to believe that there is actually a girl talked to my client just because they couldn't find her name. However, the absence of the name Allison on the passenger's list itself does not disprove such a person's existence. The issue is not whether a person on board Mr. Peddler's flight is really called Allison, but the fact that a person actually asked Mr. Peddler for a favor. During all the cross-examination, the prosecution is trying to trick my client into saying that he carried drugs from San Francisco to Australia. The fact is that the person, Allison, asked Peter to take the bag, to ask Peter for a favor to take the bag when a plane is about to land it. The prosecution denied that the existence of Allison also because Allison did not head for Mr. Peddler's house to get back her baggage. Nevertheless, we can understand that if Allison, the person who sat beside Mr. Peddler during the flight on the plane, saw Mr. Peddler taken away by the customs officer, or if she saw that there are a lot of police outside Mr. Peddler's house, she might definitely not go to Mr. Peddler's house to get back her baggage. Thus, the above assertion by the prosecution does not help in determining whether Allison existed. The prosecution has failed to meet its burden of proof. They did not carry out a full investigation, and there are some examples. First, it is their duty to check that if Peter's bag is misidentified, but they did not check the answer. And second, they did not check to see who was actually sitting next to Peter during the flight. So they cannot disprove the existence of either Desiree Duplicitus or Allison. There are definitely flaws in the prosecution's investigation. There were ways available to the prosecution by which they could present evidence that makes perfect sense regardless of whether Allison existed. It must thus be concluded that the prosecution has not met its burden of proof to prove my client's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. The information that you have been provided does not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Peddler is guilty of the crime with which he has been charged. The prosecution demanded that Mr. Peddler prove himself not guilty. But in this state, the burden of proof does not lie with the defendant, but lies with the prosecution. If the prosecution failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt any elements of crime, then Mr. Peddler should be acquitted. Your Honor, I ask you to find Mr. Peddler not guilty. Thank you. That concludes our closing address.
The court expresses its profound appreciation to both the prosecution and the defense in this case for the excellence of their presentations. To summarize the case, Peter Peddler is being tried for illegally importing a prohibited narcotic substance, heroin, into Australia, contrary to Section 9 of the Illegal Importation of Narcotics Act of 1992. The offense carries a maximum penalty of 10 years. The prosecution must prove its case beyond all reasonable doubt, including 4 distinct elements. First, the drug was a prohibited import. Second, the drug was imported into Australia. Third, Peddler, the defendant, was in possession of the suitcase which included the drug. Fourth, Peddler intended to have a prohibited drug in his possession. The defense must cast sufficient doubt on the evidence of the prosecution to show they have not proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt and satisfy the court on the balance of probabilities that Peddler did not know the drug was in his possession and that he did not have the drug in his possession. the evidence related to the first three elements of the offense are clearly established beyond a reasonable doubt, to wit, that the drug was a prohibited import, that the drug was imported into Australia, and that the drug was in the suitcase, which it was in the possession of the defendant, Peter Peddler. The case, therefore, resolves around whether or not the defendant, Peter Peddler, intended to have a prohibited drug in his possession. That would be established beyond a reasonable doubt only if no alternative explanation were reasonable. Under the circumstances of the case as they have been presented here, the strongest evidence in support of the innocence of Peter Peddler has been presented by the witness Ratchet, which the court takes very seriously. Unfortunately, the vagaries in the defendant's testimony about the woman Allison with whom he shared the ride, and some of his responses when confronted with the situation, such as asserting that he had no knowledge of the drugs before the identity of the content in question had been identified, lead the court to have considerable skepticism about the defense that has been presented here. While it's entirely possible that the defense series of events as outlined could be true, it does not rise to the level of being a probable account. And under the circumstances, the court does not find that the defense has been able to establish that there was a reasonable alternative explanation. The court is therefore obligated to find that the fourth condition, to wit, that Peter Peddler did intend to have the prohibited drug in his possession, has been established by the prosecution, and therefore it is the court's determination that the defendant, Peter Peddler, has been found guilty of the offense charged by the court. The mock trial of the Crown versus Peter Peddler by the world-class schools is therefore declared closed. Thank you all for your participation and the excellence of your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hey, Mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Taiwan, for that.
Congratulations.
No, thank
And
you, guys.
Mary, tell Dr. Fetzer and tell the production crew a little bit about your school and all the stuff that you're doing.
Hello, Dr. Fetzer. We are very honored to be having this mock trial with Del Valle High School again for so many years, and it is such an honor to have you to preside over as the judge. And we have been doing a series of debates as well as culture exchange with schools in over 50 countries around the world. And students are struggling very hard with their language because in Taiwan, English is not used at all. It is just studying with the grammar and everything. So the students actually have very poor listening. And when it comes to like live, when they are being asked a question, sometimes, especially when you're put on the spot, it is very difficult to clearly understand what it is that the other person is trying to get out of them. And so there's a lot of confusion going on. So sometimes it is many times more difficult for us. And thank you for tolerating the language barrier that the students have been enduring. And thank you so much for the opportunity for us to compete with Del Valle High School again. Thank you, Dr. Fetzer.
Those are excellent comments, which the court greatly appreciates, which I personally greatly appreciate. I think that this entire series of exchanges involving schools from different nations is a splendid idea. I endorse it completely, and I'm very glad to have your participation here. As a Marine Corps officer in the Middle East, not involved in the Far East, I had training operations in Korea, Japan twice, and in Taiwan. So I have a great respect for the Taiwanese people, and I'm very delighted to have your participation in this series of exchanges between schools.
Mary, could you introduce the parents and the teachers there too?
Okay, so the parents at the back, like wave, can we zoom in on them? So we have the parents of the students. and the teacher who teaches at an elementary school. And they are very glad to be a part of today's session.
And Mary, could you put Brian on camera a second so we could talk about your head? Hey.
Yes, and this is our technology coordinator for all the sessions in video conferencing.
Thank you very much. And tell us a little bit about your attorneys and your witnesses today.
Could you stand up? So we have our attorneys and the witnesses. And the most difficult part for them when they were training for the mock trial was understanding the questions as well. And so first they have to understand what was actually being asked, because sometimes those questions are tricky. They're either compound or it's a tag question. And those are sometimes what they want to answer is the opposite. So it may seem that they are giving the wrong or conflicting answers when actually it is because they misinterpreted the question itself. So that was one of the things that we had to struggle all the way.
And how long have they been learning English?
Oh, they have been learning the grammar for a few years, and they don't actually speak the language. So with the question and answer going back and forth, it was a big challenge for them.
Yeah, because your attorneys, I thought, were very, very strong.
So, yeah, the attorneys are in 11th grade, and the witnesses are in 10th grade. So they have just, in Taiwan, the 10th grade is the first year of high school. So they're freshmen.
Wow.
The witnesses are freshmen, so they have just entered our school.
I'm very amazed. You might want to tell Dr. Fetzer that you've had many very successful people. You could talk about Roy and Tony and a bunch of other people have gone through your program.
You mean the other mock trials or the other sessions?
Mock trials are things we've done, but some of them have gone on to do some really good things.
Right. In the past, the students have been, well, all the years for I think it's 12 years now, and the students who have participated in the mock trial, they have went on to major in law, and like Roy, you remember him?
Yeah.
He also majored in law in one of the most prestigious colleges in Taiwan, and he also got into a grad program, and he is graduating from the graduate school this month, and also he competed in trial competitions in Washington, D.C. and won the best oral. And also he passed the bar test in his very first year, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, this guy was really amazing. When in 2009, Dr. Fetzer, they beat a team from Canada when we first had a tournament, and we had the second largest law firm in Texas was sponsoring it, and they were just totally blown away and impressed.
Terrific. That's very impressive, Mike. I'm very glad to hear that. Wonderful, wonderful.
In fact, I have a video that shows sometimes Roy was cross-examining one of our students who cried for about an hour afterwards. He said that was the worst torture they ever had. Roy and Tony, I think, is in Hong Kong studying at the business school there. So she's had.
Yes, another student went on to the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and it is also one of the most prestigious colleges around the world. And he was also an attorney in the mock trial competitions then.
Excellent, excellent.
And maybe we could get Andrew. Andrew, could you tell him a little bit more about the project? You can come over here and maybe tell him. Andrew's going to just tell you a little bit about this project, what they're doing behind the scenes here and stuff.
How you guys doing? That was really awesome to experience and be a part of. You guys did a really great job. Again, thanks for letting us be here. A little bit more about the project is we're with JCPenney. They're a clothing retailer here in the United States. Very big one. They've been around for, I think, 118 years. And they're partnering with the YMCA, which is a community organization that has several locations across the country.
And they have them in Taiwan, too.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So they're partnering with the YMCA, and we're focusing in on a few individuals. Brisa was our one here in Austin, Texas. And what we're doing is we're showcasing how their involvement in their local Ys are helping them, be more confident about themselves and really believe in the value of self-expression and to be unique. So we're glad that you guys were able to be a part of this. And it's going to be a short video, about a minute long, that will be online later this summer. We'll make sure to share it with you when it's complete. That's really about what the campaign's all about.
Okay. So we kind of made some stuff from behind the scenes, so they'll show the real thing, and then you got some stuff from behind the scenes. But so today we I talked to University of Texas San Antonio yesterday, and we got together to do some more for Law Day next year. So we're going to have a university sponsoring some stuff. So we're going to try to have a very large presence next year with a bunch more opportunities like this. Chris, you want to tell a little bit about the school? Yeah, we're going to probably, I know it's really late there in Taiwan, and Dr. Fetzer, we sure do appreciate everything that you guys did today, and I hope that continued success in all the projects that you're doing, and continued success with your projects too, Mary, and I guess we're going to conclude from here, and thank you so much, okay?
Thank you, and yeah, I'd just like to add at the very end that thank you YMCA for helping us with all the programs in the past, and I also want to say that JCPenney is a well-known and well-liked enterprise from what we know.
Yeah.
We actually heard of this enterprise a long time ago. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say it's kind of weird because in the day that Penny is doing this, Sears, which used to be the world's largest retailer, is just shutting down some more stores. So Penny's is still doing extremely well, and has a large presence, and they are sponsoring this spokespeople for Arizona jeans, which happen to be my favorite brand of jeans I wear every day. So I just wanted to put that in.
Mike, my compliments to both sides in this event today and to you for a sensational program. I believe everything you're doing is making a real difference, and I congratulate you on your sustained effort. You're achieving a great deal of success.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jim, and we'll get back with you guys, and so long here from Austin and Madison and Taiwan. Goodbye.
Thank you, USA. Thank you, Dr. Fetzer. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.